The power of the scarf overwhelmed day 9. Please don't ever change, sir. But we do have a super duper spiffy matchup coming to you between Stan Cifka and Andrea Mengucci. Another battle of the Bants, Cedric.
It is another battle of the Bants. We're going to see Bant Ramp against Bant Food. I think Paul did a nice job of summarizing exactly what we should expect in this particular matchup. Though it is interesting here that both players do have Nissa. One advantage that Andrea does have is the ability to actually pressure Nissa because he does have Questing Beast, because he does have the Wolf in his deck as well, the Witching Wolf. So what's actually interesting about this is his ability to actually kill an opposing Nissa, something I think Stan will actually have a little bit of difficulty with in this matchup. So this should be a good one.
So would you say Andrea's got the advantage as we take a look at the opening hands? Pretty good one there. Goose into Leafkin, Druid into Nissa who shakes the world. Yes, please.
I am not mulliganing this hand. You
Nope.
also have an answer to an opposing Nissa in Deputy of Detention. So yes, please. This is a keep. And I like Andrea in this matchup, though it is very hard to pick against Cifka and his team, who have been cracking standard basically the entire year.
Every single set, it's just this check testing house that are going absolutely nuts. So let's see if they can keep the ball rolling here with their Bant Ramp list. Cifka mulliganing down to 6. Got a Paradise Druid and Oko Thief of Crowns in hand. Not a bad hand either, but you gotta think Mengucci's opening hand is far superior.
He's going to start things off with a Breeding Pool for Mengucci. And the only disadvantage that Mengucci's at here is that he is on the draw. Other than that, I love his hand. Gilded Goose, obviously a great place to start, and we'll see where things do go from there.
Stan Cifka just running out the Paradise Druid, getting his ramp online, drawing another Deputy of Detention. Does Mengucci. He is able to get down the Leafkin Druid, and I really hope to see Nissa who shakes the world on turn 3. Cifka's got to know that that's a possibility.
He absolutely does know that. That is a concern for him, to be sure.
Plenty of lands there, drawing the Temple of Mystery so he can go scrying. Also Oko Thief of Crowns, possibly considering maybe getting that Goose out of the way.
Yeah, Oko can turn the Goose into a 3-3 Elk, but then that 3-3 Elk can actually start pressuring the Oko. Again, this is kind of my concern here for Cifka, is that I think that Mengucci's build of this deck in this particular matchup is key, again, because he does have the main deck Questing Beast, he does have the main deck copies of Wicked Wolf, and also those Deputy Retentions can take care of Nissa and some of the other problematic cards like Hydroid Krasis. So, and speaking of problematic cards.
Hello, Oko. Oko, Thief of Crowns, is on the battlefield. What is he going to do? Are we making some food, or are we creating elk tokens?
It's always fun to watch Cifka play because he's such a master of the game and a master of games. You know, he's kind of figured this stuff out. He's definitely figured out Magic and Standard over the past handful of months, but it looks like he agonizes over every decision that he makes in every game that he plays. It's kind of fun to look at the top left-hand corner of the screen and just Stan is just, I mean, it's turn 3 and it's already tough.
He wears his heart on his sleeve. You know exactly what he's thinking, and he's thinking, hey, Gilded Goose, you look like an elk to me. So that'll shut down the potential for a turn 3 Nissa. I'm a little sad about it, but you know what? Stan Cifka certainly is not Fabled Passage to the draw for Mengucci. Adding another one to his hand, so he can Deputy of Detention the Oko here, and that's not the worst idea considering Stan Cifka's hand.
Well, this turn, if he wants a blue source, it will not enter the battlefield untapped, so I don't believe he has the opportunity to cast Deputy Detention right now. Temple Garden can enter untapped. Fabled Passages would enter the land they search for. They would be tapped. So no access to blue mana at the moment for Deputy Detention, which is actually bad news for Mengucci on this particular turn. The Elk can come in. It can pressure Oko a little bit. It's going to fall down to 2. So Cifka will get another crack at it with the Oko, and now it's drawing a copy of Hydroid Krasis.
Hello, Hydroid Krasis. I bet you he's happy to see that, because what better way to use all the lands in hand than Hydroid Krasis?
Yeah, I mean, right now you can play a land, of course. Breeding Pool or Temple Garden will enter the battlefield untapped at the cost of just 2 life, but life totals are obviously pretty high here as both players are at 20 to draw a couple of cards. If you are Cifka, I think the only reason there's some hesitation here is because you'd like to have a bigger one if you could, but given that he has nothing else to do for the turn, it looks like it's going to be a Krasis for 3, draw a card, gain a little bit of life.
I mean, a 3-3 Krasis, we saw an 18-18 earlier. Come on.
Yeah, that's nothing.
I bet you that's what he's wanting in this game as well, but we do have the Krasis on the battlefield. It's going to become a 6-6 Elk, courtesy of Dear Oko. A Deputy of Detention off the top again, so certainly no lack of that card for Andrea Mengucci. He's got plenty targets too. He's got a Hydroid Krasis and an Oko that he can yoink.
So things do get a little bit interesting here, but I think Mengucci's play is straightforward enough, which is sacrifice that Fabled Passage for an island, play Deputy, take care of the Krasis for good, and then finish off the Oko. So I think that's what we'll see here in just a moment. I don't think this is the best turn to be deploying the Nissa who shakes the world. So straightforward enough with the Vidalcan Wizard that he's hovered over, one of the 3 copies in hand. And it really is a mirror breaker in these Simic and Bant matchups. Take care of the Krasis for good, kill the Oko. Dare Cifka to have something better to do.
Oh yes, so like you said, Gilded Goose is going to take vengeance on Oko, who turned it into an elk. The goose wants to fly. No touchy dear Oko, drawing a forest off the top. Does stand Cifka. It's not what he wants to see. He needs some more action here. The Gilded Goose is not going to cut it. That Scryland may come into use a little later on, though, just showing up his draws. But Mengucci's hand is absolutely loaded.
Yeah, Mengucci's got a beautiful looking hand. Answers to problems in those multiple copies of Deputy Detention. Nissa who shakes the world is of course the game breaker, but it's good that we did point out the Castle Vantress, a new card from Throne of Eldraine, because that is something that can actually help to get Cifka back into this game potentially, scrying twice on the end step and actually finding some action here, because right now as we see in his hand, he's got nothing doing.
Andrea Mengucci has everything on the other hand. Oko Thief of Crowns is the draw, going to run out that Fabled Passage, find another land, and maybe get Nissa who shakes the world, rockin' and rollin'. Fabled Passage cracked. What land do we go for? Forest or island? That is the forest down. And do we see a Nissa? Do we see an Oko? Do we see another Deputy?
No, we got to take the opportunity to get this Nissa on the battlefield if I'm Andrea. Looks like he's going to use the Leafkin Druid to do it as well, to actually generate a ton of mana with the Nissa on this turn. Going to leave the Temple Garden untapped with the Nissa. We'll of course see seeing him plus this here in just a moment. And then we could also see Oko this turn as well.
So with Nissa, we could play Oko. If we bring back that blue, nice. Very clean. There we go. No attacks first.
We'll see. He may have interest in deploying Oko right now. Yeah, so 2 spells in a turn. I mean, this is a heck of a turn right now. No counter spells, no nothing, no interaction here for Cifka. When this turn started, there are no planeswalkers on the battlefield. Now as we're in the middle stages of this turn, there are 2 problematic planeswalkers on the battlefield. No one knows that better than Stan, since he has both of these cards in his deck. He is very far behind this game now.
So both Elks swinging in for 6 points of damage. Castle Vantress getting fired off. Scrying 2 for Stan Cifka, but nothing he can do against these 2 creatures except put a poor little Gilded Goose in the way. Which he doesn't do, so taking him down to 15 does Mengucci. Growth Spiral off the top. This could be pretty useful here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit of a redraw. That's an island, though, and I think Cifka's... I wouldn't be surprised if he just concedes this game right away, because he is so far behind. He's just going to say, I'm out of here. Mengucci will take a deep breath. He is up 1. I think this is a favorable position for him. I think he's able to even make his deck a little bit better after sideboard, but I do think this is a good matchup for him, because he can pressure Planeswalkers much better than Cifka can, and in matchups like this, it's all about pressuring Planeswalkers.
So here we see Mengucci siding in some of the Veils of Summer, taking out a few questing beasts. What else do we do against Stan Cifka?
Looks like a couple copies of Voracious Hydra came in. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Tulsimir come in as well. Again, you're just going to want to be pressuring Planeswalkers in this matchup. You want to be the first one to Nissa if you can be, but I like what Mengucci's setup here is as well. He's got creatures that can pressure. The questing beast is obviously at its best against Bant Golos and creatures that can't block it. You can do a lot of chump blocking on that creature in this style of matchup, so sideboarding that out does make some sense. I like where Mengucci has gone. Again, I still do feel as though he is favored here, but Cifka being on the play and a Pro Tour champion in his own right means that we still got a lot of Magic left to be played.
Oh yeah, don't ever count him out. Both players, of course, at 3-0, looking to go 4-0 in day number 2 of Mythic Championship 5. So taking a look at the opening hands, we have Paradise Druid, Deputy Detention, and Oko Thief of Crowns for Mengucci, Growth Spiral, and a bunch of ramp for Stan Cifka, as well as Nissa, who shakes the world. Ooh, Mass Manipulation is the draw. Maybe we'll see some stuff stolen a little later.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eyes on Mass Manipulation over the course of this game. It is a very hard card to cast there with quadruple blue in the casting cost, but both players have their key starts here, which is just mana acceleration to start. Both players with a Paradise Druid, and now you're able to play some spells maybe ahead of schedule. Another Paradise Druid here shows that Cifka wants to play Nissa first, which makes total sense because the card is absolutely outrageous, and the ability to play a Growth Spiral here on Mengucci's end step.
So, Paradise Druids aplenty on the battlefield. Oko is going to join the fray and start creating some food tokens. Just going to be a stare down between these Paradise Druids. Both players value this ramp. They know how important it is to get to the big stuff first. Temple of Mystery is drawn off the Growth Spiral and enters the battlefield.
It's actually a really nice find there for Cifka.
Yeah.
He's going to scry Hydroid Krasis on top of his deck, so that'll be his draw step here in a moment, most likely. That's the card that he is deciding between right now, but, I mean, that was an ideal find with the Growth Spiral. You get to draw a card, and, of course, you do get to do a little bit of scrying, so you got to be thrilled if you are Cifka with that exchange, and his hand is also very, very good right now.
Oh, yeah. So Nissa is a potential, but it looks like we might see the Hydroid Krasis come out first, also with the Oko in hand. Deputy of Detention on the other side of the battlefield, or in Mengucci's hand, is going to look to yoink one of these big threats from Cifka. So let's see which one he runs out first. It's going to be Nissa who shakes the world. Apply some pressure to his opponent.
Yeah, this is going to remind you of the last game we just watched, but it's coming from Cifka this time, in which he is able to make a Nissa, make a creature, do some attacking, knock Oko down, and then play Oko post-combat. So again, this was a turn that started with no Planeswalkers. Now there are 2 Planeswalkers. Cifka's on the receiving end of this last game. He's doing it this game. And now if you're Mengucci, you have to do something about both these Planeswalkers. This is a problem. It starts probably with Deputy of Detention, but we'll have to see how Mengucci wants to take the turn because he has no Nissa to deploy.
Which Planeswalker is the best target for Deputy Detention, do you think?
You have to start with Nissa. It's the most problematic, all the mana that's available. Obviously, Mengucci doesn't know about the Mass Manipulation and the Hydroid Krasis that's sitting in Cifka's hand, but he knows how powerful that card is. It's in his deck, and anyone that's playing a green-based deck this weekend almost certainly has Nissa in their deck. You have to get that card off the battlefield. You can figure out ways to deal with Oko a little bit later, but start with the 5-mana Planeswalker.
Deputy of Detention enters the battlefield and eyes out Nissa who shakes the world. She's going to hang out in exile underneath the creature. Mass Manipulation may come into play a little later. Oko Thief of Crowns, plussing and creating another elk out of that food token. Pressure of his own.
I'm into this. You can, of course, turn that food token into a 3/3 elk, as you just did. You can start to pressure Oko a little bit, and you've done your job here, which is bring Oko down to 1. Can't kill it, unfortunately, but you've done a nice job of basically saying, I had to catch up. I've caught back up a little bit, though. He is thinking about only attacking with the 2/2, leaving the 3/3 back on defense to perhaps protect his own Oko.
It's a battle of the Okos here. Paradise Druid possibly swinging in for 2 points of damage on the Oko.
Okay.
Just keeping it in check. Teferi Time Raveler is the draw for Stan Cifka, so we could get Nissa who shakes the world back.
It's actually a pretty timely draw there for Cifka. He can play Teferi, bounce the Deputy Detention, get the Nissa back, and generate more of an advantage that way. Wouldn't be surprised to see that line of play. Of course, has access to white mana from the Paradise Druid, so it looks like he's going to use his mana accelerants as opposed to his lands to play the Teferi, which means that he wants to open up Nissa and generate as much mana as he can from the problematic Planeswalker. That looks to be the line this turn here for your Pro Tour Return to Ravnica champion.
Hallowed Fountain off the top, so Hydroid Krasis may get in here, but I'm guessing this Deputy of Detention is going to just keep going after Nissa, as you pointed out. It is the biggest factor in this matchup. Whoever gets to Nissa first is likely to run away with the game.
There's a lot of great cards for both players in these decks, and they're playing very similar decks, of course. You see Bant Ramp on one side, Bant Food on the other, so they're playing somewhat identical decks. There are some minor cosmetic changes here and there, and certainly what they're trying to accomplish is a little bit different. But at the end of the day, this matchup is based around Nissa. You have to control the Planeswalker. You see the advantage that Cifka is able to generate just off of one turn of Nissa. Last turn we saw Nissa plus Oko. This turn we see Teferi, get my Nissa back, do some attacks, kill your Oko, play some more spells like this Hydroid Krasis here, and it spirals out of control so quickly, Alias.
Oh, yes, indeed. So advantage Cifka, drawing a Gilded Goose and another Nissa who shakes the world. So if this Deputy of Detention does take Nissa, it's okay. He's just drawn another one, which is absolutely phenomenal for Stan.
And you see the play draw difference on the play last game. You know, this isn't if Mengucci's on the play this game, it's entirely different. Maybe Wicked Wolf works itself into the equation. Maybe Hydroid Krasis works itself into the equation. But now Mengucci is much too far behind. He concedes right away, knows he can't handle all these Planeswalkers and those threats. And let's move on to a third and final one between these two.
So what do you do differently in this sideboard?
Well, I mean, being on the play means that you want to construct your deck in such a fashion that really takes advantage of being on the play. Ideally, you're first to Nissa. You can, of course, play Wicked Wolf on turn 3, something like that. A little bit surprised to not see Disdainful Stroke in his deck after sideboard because there are some key cards to counter, but it's also telling here that there are a couple of Nissas in the sideboard here for Cifka, and he's bringing in his Disdainful Strokes on the draw. So one thing to note when you're playing against a great player and in a matchup like this, you have to really take a step back and say, how does my deck operate on the draw as opposed to how does it operate on the play? When you're on the draw, overall, you actually want to interact with your opponent a little bit more with disdainful stroke. When you're on the play, you're just like, oh, let me just do my thing as fast as I can and see if they can interact. So that's why you're going to see the strokes in here, I think, in this game, where we didn't in the last one.
Just a few final tweaks for Stan Cifka. Checking out Mengucci's list, making sure he has all his bases covered. Taking out a Nissa who shakes the world.
See, that's really telling. Now, obviously, Cifka is doing phenomenal in this tournament. He's in day 2 of competition and hasn't lost a match yet today. So it's a little bit surprising to see Nissa come out because it is so powerful. But I will say it's a busted card on the play, as we might see in this game, and merely very good on the draw. So Cifka clearly has a plan. He's an incredible Magic player, so we'll see if the plan actually comes to fruition here.
That was a snap keep from Andrea Mengucci.
Oh, you
He's
better
ready to
believe
go.
it.
You know when the opponent is hovering a card over the battlefield, it's just like, all right, let's go. I'm ready for you. 2 Gilded Gooses. Geese, there we go. Oko, Thief of Crowns. Questing Beast and Nissa who shakes the world, so he can get going. He can get off to a blistering start here, and that's exactly what he's doing. Breeding Pool, Gilded Goose, go.
Yeah, this hand is the snappiest of keeps. We've got turn 2 Oko, make a food token, potentially turn 3 Questing Beast, turn 4 Nissa, depending how the draw steps do shake out. For Cifka, you really need Once Upon a Time to bail you out in this situation. Let's see what he found. Okay, Gilded Goose is an incredible find because at that stage of the game, he had no acceleration whatsoever, so he can keep up a little bit here. Hollowed Fountain, an incredible draw as well, because that means we know that Questing Beast is coming on the following turn.
Oh yeah, so Oko turn 2. He's going 2. Plus, of course, we're going to make either a food token or turn this Gilded Goose into a food token. That would be pretty tricky for Cifka to get around. But we're just going to get the food token down for now.
Yeah, that little interaction and that decision is a very interesting one, because if you're Mengucci, you can turn your opponent's Gilded Goose into an elk token.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they can't ramp at all. He thought about it briefly, decided, I'll make a food token. Next turn, I'll be able to do my thing that way. And I have no idea if that decision is right or not, because I'm sure there's a lot that's going through Mengucci's mind that I'm unaware of, but he elected to make the food token and continue on that way.
So we're going to see a battle of the Okos here, both on turn 2 for both of our players.
And now I'm curious to see how Cifka wants to use his Oko. It looks like he's also just going to create a food token. There's a Deputy Detention, not a bad draw. We'll keep that one in mind for a little bit later and see what Mengucci wants to do this turn, because again, this turn would be very simple and just saying Questing Beast, attack you, that'll knock your Oko down to 2.
Yeah.
And let's see what the rest of the turn brings. There's also the potential to just kill Oko outright this. No, I take that back, actually. No potential to kill Oko outright this turn. I suppose you could do it with Deputy Detention if you wanted to, but that doesn't seem like a great use of that card in this particular matchup.
Especially with a Wicked Wolf hanging out there in Stan Cifka's hand, it would just equal a dead Deputy and an Oko that likes to make some more stuff. So Mengucci just taking his turn here, taking his time, deciding what he wants to do. It's going to be second Gilded Goose into Deputy
I
of
did
Detention.
not expect this. So now I'm curious to see what are we going to target with this Deputy Detention, because he's slowing himself down a little bit.
Okay, so taking the Oko, we know about the Wicked Wolf.
Okay, how do we want to use this Oko? Okay, I like this a little bit. So here's why I think this play may be occurring. Double Forest there for Cifka.
Yeah.
He's got mana issues as far as colors are concerned, and there's a real reliance on Gilded Goose to provide the colored mana and the acceleration. And Oko turning that Gilded Goose into a 3/3 stops both of those things. And this also means that next turn we're going to see a Wicked Wolf. Excuse me, next turn we're going to see a Nissa from Mengucci almost certainly. So Mengucci in that previous turn alias thought about making that Gilded Goose into an elk, did it on the following turn, which was the last one that we watched. And now Cifka's about to be very far behind.
Oh yes, Once Upon a Time being fired off. Finds a Temple of Mystery. We'll get the Scry. That fixes his blue for next turn.
Really heads up play there from Andre. I would expect nothing, from Andrea. I would expect nothing less from such a great player to identify that, oh, 2 basic forests, no dual lands. I'm going to shut down your colored mana. You have to figure out a way to deal with that with your Goose no longer providing that for you. And now, I don't know if you've noticed, but this card's really good in this matchup.
Oh yeah, no, I've noticed.
Okay.
It's going pretty good here.
Yeah.
So Andrea Mengucci firmly in control at the moment with the 2 Planeswalkers on the battlefield to Cifka's Zilch. Drawing the Hallowed Fountain off the top, just fixing his mana again. Does have the Wicked Wolf. He's got the Hydrokrasis. He's got Nissa, but she will not be featuring just yet.
Now, Wicked Wolf is a pretty big deal in this spot because it can come down and it can eat something. It can eat some food and then take care of a Hallowed Fountain. But the problem here continues to be that there's no permanent answer to Nissa or Oko. We've seen it all 3 games now. For Mengucci, he had that fantastic turn of Nissa plus Oko on turn 5 of game 1. For Cifka, we saw him do the exact same thing, and Mengucci he was like, I'm out of here. I can't catch up. And now once again, we're seeing the exact same thing on Mengucci's side, where he's got both planeswalkers. His battlefield is good enough, and it's only going to get better.
Cifka going to combat the Gilded Goose. Excuse me, the Gilded Elk is going to swing potentially at one of these planeswalkers. Force Mengucci to sacrifice that Hallowed Fountain if he wants to keep their loyalty high. It's no real big deal here, losing 3.
Yeah, and that's what makes these planeswalkers so powerful, is that they have so much loyalty. So from going to 6-3 is annoying at best.
Yeah.
It's not dead.
It's not dead, still totally fine. So
Yep.
Wicked Wolf says, hello, Deputy Detention, you've got something of mine, and Oko is back in the mix of things on Cifka's side of the battlefield.
So we're starting the comeback trail here if we're Cifka. Now he's got to figure out how he wants to use the Oko. Now also keep in mind that there's a Wicked Wolf over there that has a food token that can turn it into a 4/4 indestructible, and that can brick combat for Mengucci. So this will be a little bit interesting, though. I do see a Deputy of Attention over there for Andrea, so we'll see how things go on this turn.
Drawing a second Oko does Mengucci. Got the Deputy of Detention and the Questing Beast. He's got several things he can do this turn, so I'll be very curious to see where he turns his attention. If it's Questing Beast, straight to face, which would die to the Wicked Wolf, but no, actually, he hasn't got any more food.
Yeah, so he's out of food because he made his food token into a 3/3 elk. So the goal here is to have the 3/3s line up accordingly.
Yeah.
Because Nissa generates 3/3s, of course, but also Nissa plus the combination of Oko can make things into a 6/6. So Mengucci's got to take all that into account as he kind of plans out his turn a little bit. He is being roped now, so he'll be prompted to make a decision, though he does have one timeout to work with.
First things first, he's going to make a food token. Oko is going to switcheroonie the food token and the Wicked Wolf. Is he? Oh,
I
we're
like
switching
this.
the goose?
I like maybe this a little bit better. A little bit risky because Oko is on the battlefield that can generate food, but I'm kind of into this play, and I'm also, I think I'm into this as well.
This is really cool. I like this a lot. So here comes the Questing Beast. Gonna swing through, take out that food token if it decides to block, but for the most part, I think Oko may be a little bit broco here.
Yeah, Oko is looking very, very good in this game. There's just so much flexibility in that card. You give a great player like Andrea Mengucci a planeswalker that is all positives with all these abilities. He's going to figure out the best way to use it. I love the exchange there of the Gilded Goose for the Wicked Wolf, and now Questing Beast has made its way onto the battlefield. Hallowed Fountain will trade with that food token. Oko will fall down to 1, and Mengucci has continued to push his advantage by having those 2 planeswalkers on the battlefield.
Exactly right. Gilded Goose is the draw for Stan Cifka. Still has the Hydroid Krasis and Nissa, who shakes the world, that can enter the fray now. But this battlefield for Andrea Mengucci is becoming quite tricky to maneuver. Stolen the Wicked Wolf, he's got the Questing Beast, he's got the Gilded Goose and a Breeding Pool. Running out of lands because Nissa's making them into creatures, but that's no problem currently for Andrea Mengucci. First things first, let's get that Breeding Pool down. Here comes Nissa, who shakes the world, bringing lands to life. Oko is hanging on by the skin of his teeth.
Well, if there's any card that can catch Cifka up in this game, it is certainly Nissa, who shakes the world. Both players have both planeswalkers on the battlefield now, so now you take a look at the battlefields and you kind of line them up. Well, if you're Mengucci, you're saying I have a Questing Beast, a Wicked Wolf, I've got a 3/3 Breeding Pool, I've got an active Oko with way more, actually same amount of loyalty, oddly enough, sitting at 1, and then you've got the Nissa also there as well. If you're Cifka, you're saying, well, I'm behind on the battlefield as far as creatures are concerned, so I got to catch up there. Let's make a Temple of Mystery into a 3/3 and actually see if I can find some creatures to do some trading here.
Stan Cifka just taking his time. Like you said, the best players in the world never rush it.
Never, ever, ever rushing their decisions, especially when they're both 3-0 here on day number 2 of competition. Winner of this one moves on to 4-0 and is 1 win away from making Sunday competition. I wouldn't rush either.
Oh no, that's a big deal. You want to get straight into day number 3. You can do that with a 5-0. That is even better. Breeding Pool's the draw for Mengucci. He's got a spare copy of Oko and a Deputy of Detention to deal with Elks.
Breeding Pool is actually a pretty nice draw here because that's a land that he can play untapped, use those 2 lands, the Breeding Pool and the Hallowed Fountain, play a Deputy of Attention. Deputy of Attention, of course, will target something and make it go away. Then you can activate your Nissa, untap a land, start to give some beatdowns that way. So there goes Temple of Mystery.
Oh, it doesn't become an Elk too? I was hoping it would steal both things. That's all right, though. So Nissa, who shakes the world, is going to bring the hallowed fountain to life. Oko is going to turn this goose into an elk.
Click that red button. Click that red button. Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
I think that's the most excited I've seen you all weekend.
It's the best button on the program.
It is the best button. Indeed. Oh, there we go. Andrea Mengucci taking it 2-1 against Stan Cifka. He is 4-0. One more game, and he is through to day number 3. Excellent match between those two superb players. Battle of the Bant.
For Mengucci, it's one more win. He's 4-0 right now. He's got to get one more to move on. He has already had a fantastic year of Magic, the member of Team Channel Fireball, and he is a blast to watch. I hope we get the opportunity to talk with him as well. His deck looks great. His play is great, and really well played. Obviously, him and Cifka are really, really good friends. They're even talking about it right now. Great sportsmanship between the two.
So any standout moments in that game for you, Cedric?
You know, it's really just a Nissa and Oko battle at the end of the day, but it's also managing those cards correctly. So there isn't one play that really stood out to me, but it's understanding what you need to do in the matchup to win. Both those players knew right away. It's about Nissa, it's about Oko, it's about managing those resources, getting the most out of my mana, and there, Mengucci was able to do it just a little bit better than Stan Cifka.
So Bant just displaying its dominance. Let's hear from our winner, Andrea Mengucci.
That's right. I'm here with the man who needs no introduction, Andrea Mengucci. What an amazing win. You're 4-0. What does this mean?
I don't know. Yeah, 4-0.
Just leave it at that, right? Don't talk too much about the future. Let's talk about that match. Cifka is, of course, an amazing opponent, and you had a lot of interesting lines there. What happens when someone gets both Nissa and Oka down on the battlefield?
Yeah, also the first game was so interesting by side, but the third game I drew better, so you know I think I was gonna win since the opener because I would turn to walk on the play, but you know I didn't draw more lands, so it was like so many options at the end. The breeding pool just gave me the win that turn, but the game was very tough. You know, Cifka is a great opponent, but this is the third time that I beat that kind of deck in this tournament, so I feel very good in this matchup.
Are you getting more and more confident that, of course, probably you decided this before, but knowing exactly what to always sideboard in? Is this because he's a difficult opponent on the Bant Ramp?
Yeah, Magic is very strange because, sure, I knew how to sideboard. All right, I have a sideboard plan over here or there, and I've read all the sideboard plan. But I played against, let's say, Gregor Kowalski in day 1, and maybe he told Cifka, his teammate, how I sideboarded. Okay, so this game, second game, I saw Teferi, which is a card that I thought it would have boarded out. So I'm like, maybe Kowalski told I was boarding in Veil of Summer, so I have to board out Veil of Summer and put in just questing. Because basically, I didn't sideboard. Sideboard like one card because it's just there's so many levels. Like written sideboard guide help in best of 3 for sure. You know, my Article Channel Fireball will help you. But during a tournament, there's so many things that evolve, and you have to just follow and see how your opponent, you know, sideboarded itself, or just how, you know, if you play against one of his teammates.
Absolutely. Now, in game 2, you had a pretty early scoop there. What were you thinking when you hit that concede button?
It's just, I think that, so a lot of people, you know, my hero Reed Duke, for example, he just never scoops, you know? He just stays there, plays crisis for 2, passes the turn, takes the attack, you know? Whereas I and my teammate Javier are like, all right, let's save mental energy because the game is very, very stressful. There's a lot of lights, and I have to keep the scarf, so you know it's very hot over here. Yeah. And so I just like save mental time. I'm never gonna win the game. It's 3 planeswalker. I have none. I have like 6 mana, so that's it.
Interesting. I love the philosophy of conserving mental energy. Absolutely. All right. Congratulations, Andrea.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll see you later. And back to Cedric and Alias.